Yeah, I'm Ryan Richard. I work with Los Angeles County Registrar-Recorder's office. So we work specifically in community and voter outreach. So what we do is outreach to voters, just like what we're doing here today. We go out and we explain how the our first task we were doing the new ballot marking device. So we're explaining to you how things have changed in LA County when we moved to a new voting system, a new method of which you're using to vote. We call that program VSAP, or that's what we have this V for, and it stands for Voting Solutions for All People. So the idea was to make the ballot, the thing we actually use to vote, more accessible for everyone. So right now, what we're focusing on in this presentation today is entitled Voting in a Pandemic Era. So we're teaching people how to make voting more accessible, what we've done as LA County to be nimble and make sure that people in the county are still able to vote in the safest and most familiar way that they see fit. So big thing we say at the county is we're not big on restricting ways to vote, we're big on providing new access. So that means we're never taking away ways for you to vote, we're always adding new ones. So we're not restricting the way that we voted because of COVID, we're adding new, safer methods. The old ones will still be in place. If you decide to use them, we would encourage you to use some of the new methods that we put in place. But if you feel, we have some people who are, this is my pattern, this is what I like to do, it'll still be there with some new flavors and put in it to make sure that everyone's safe. So ups and downs of my position. Ups is I get to do stuff like this. I get to sit down and have conversations with small groups of people who are like-minded, active, and engaged. I really appreciate what you all are doing with your group, because I've seen small groups like that in my city are starting to pop up, and I'm really happy about it to see this movement is really bubbling up and swelling around places. I get a little bit of both sides here because I'm a planning commissioner here in the city of Hawthorne. So sometimes of the little things that we do, I'm not always can't be all the way outside because you're looked at it, you're one of the people that are here, but I get to go and still provide the information. So it's fun, I appreciate it. I'm glad to see people doing it. The downs are, I don't have much sleep because the days are all just one long day, but it's fun. It's fun. I like this kind of work. I love the moving. So, but I guess we could call it. Lots of people like to sleep. I guess that's the thing. People do.
Wow, thank you so much. I think it's really cool that you're a planning commissioner. I'll talk to more about that with you later, hopefully.
Yeah, we got
there's
time.
an opening. There's an opening on the planning commission in La Mirada, everyone. So anyway, that's great. Thank you. And thanks again for taking the time, for sacrificing a nap or sleep a little bit for us. We appreciate it.
Naps are overrated, except that they're not.
Cool. Well, so I think we can go ahead and get started. I think everyone's probably here by now.
So as long as can you let me share, and I'll share the presentation for you.
Oh, okay. Sounds good. And it's giving you the option.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
I got it.
Okay,
Let me ask before I jump in, is everyone familiar with what we call the ballot marking device, or the new way that we vote? Seen it, touched it once or twice, maybe, kind of?
Is that what we just had at the beginning of this year?
Yes, in March, the new device we used in March.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah?
I don't think I have. I voted differently in March, so I don't think I saw it.
Then I will do the presentation that has that in there, so we can go over that too. And we'll go with this one here. Sharing. Okay. And where are you, present button? Don't slideshow me. Didn't start. Go back. Okay, let me see if I can get you guys. All right, so the only thing that gets me with presenting is when I do it on Zoom, I can't see you all. So if you need me to slow down or anything, please feel free to unmute yourself. Let me know because I can't, I don't get you all in the screen.
Yeah.
But all right. So with this presentation, this one is voting in the time of a pandemic. So as we all know, we are facing the situation with COVID-19 disrupting a lot of the way that things traditionally run. So luckily, living here in LA County, we've been pretty nimble on making sure that we have a way to make sure that we are protecting everyone's access to voting and making sure that there's a safe way for us all to move forward with this process. And today I'm going to explain a couple of the new changes that have come out, important things that you want to know about how you go about voting and how exactly LA County is supporting us during this time. Okay, so general election snapshot. So this is for our November election. Key thing to remember about LA County. LA County has currently 5.5 million registered voters. In the county, we have about 10.5 million people. So fun fact, LA County in and of itself is larger than about 42 states in the country. So this is considered the largest voting district in the country. So we face some unique challenges, but we also provides us some unique opportunities to succeed when it comes to this process. So as I'm sure we've all seen, wear a mask, 6 feet, all of those procedures and those modes of operation will be in place in our in-person vote centers. These are the signs you see here are actually the signs you'll see in vote centers. We moved to an infographic type map model just to kind of transcend language barriers. We have those signs there so everyone will understand they're to be easier and more accessible for people. So our staff will be fully masked, have gloves. Gloves will be available. Masks will be available to individuals when they come in to vote. Should you request one, if you like one, we can provide it to you if you don't have one already. No one will be turned away from a vote center for lack of masks. They'll just be simply offered another mask. So be able to make sure that we're not disenfranchising or putting anyone away from their ability to vote if they choose to vote in person. In LA County, after our last election, we started following the California Voters Choice Act model, which allows 10 days of voting. You have 10 days of early voting, and in some places there are 10 days. In the majority of centers, there will be 4 days of early voting. All this means is you can come in days in advance, so you don't have to deal with the lines on election day, and you can vote early if you choose to vote in person. This option was there for us in the last election. Unfortunately, not as many people as we would have liked would have taken advantage of that option. So we do encourage individuals, if you're coming in and you decide you want to vote in person, in order to avoid the lines, any kind of crowds, you can come in early. List of those locations is available on lavote.net. We have not completely solidified all of the places, but they will be up early enough for you to make plans to go out and vote that way. And we'll most likely be sending some mailers or just different literature to let you know about spaces that will be vote centers. We do have a few that are already confirmed, bigger name vote centers, such as Dodger Stadium. We have LARFC, the soccer stadium, and we actually just confirmed today that the Los Angeles Forum will be a vote center for us as well. So we're working on getting as many spaces as we can that are large and afford us the ability to socially distance people while we're doing this process. Now, the biggest thing that you'll hear about is right now, LA County, or just the state of California, has actually switched to mailing every single registered voter will receive a vote by mail ballot, whether or not you have signed up for one. As long as you are registered to vote before October 19th, you will receive a vote by mail ballot. That is to encourage people to return that ballot via the mail or our vote by mail drop box spaces that I'll also explain. This is to try to cut down on the number of crowds, people that are gathering, but still provide people access to their ballot and to be able to vote. So if you notice here on the first bubble, if we go back, it said to 5.5 million voters. To about 2 million of those voters before were actually vote by mail, or 3 million, I should say, were actually vote by mail voters. Now that we're shifting to add all of these ballots to all of our registered voters, we're increasing the number of ballots by 2.5 million. Is what we'll be printing out, sending to the post office, having mailed out to you. In order to decrease that load of sending all those back on the post office, we've instituted what we call the vote by mail drop box program. Vote by mail drop boxes will be, they look just like the one that's in this picture, and I'm used to going out and physically having one next to me, but they're large boxes that'll be placed in very public places where you're able to come in, just drop your ballot off. They're only 4 ballots. They are serviced specifically by the Los Angeles County Registrar-Recorder's office. So there's no other interaction with them. We take care of them, and we take your ballot directly from those boxes right to the office. So if you
Brian?
feel, yep,
Can I ask you a question?
go for it.
Are the drop boxes inside buildings or are they out in the open?
They're all outside.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So actually, I'm glad you said that, because now I got a little window where I can see it. So we'll leave it just like that. That works. Okay. So yes, all the vote by mail drop boxes will be outside. They are accessible 24 hours a day up until election day. At 8 o'clock on election day, those boxes are locked, and that's the end of it. That's what we need. So I'm glad you asked. Yes, that's the idea, is to make sure that they're always accessible to you whenever you need to use one. Let's see here. Let's click this new. So this is a big picture of the vote by mail drop box. So there's a couple different types. So there's 2 sizes of vote by mail drop boxes. The one on the left, or my left, I don't know if you guys see it the same way I am, smaller box. That one is a box where you'd actually physically walk up to it. You can walk into that box and drop it in the slot there. The one on the right is actually a drive-up drop box. So you don't even have to get out of the car for some of these boxes. They'll be listed where you can just drive by, drop off your ballot. These will be placed curbside, easy for people to get right into them and make sure they're able to drop off that ballot. Now, all these boxes have been placed in ADA accessible spaces. It's the idea to make sure that anyone who wants to access these boxes has the ability to do so. I can personally tell you they are in these spaces because I also work on the team that goes out and installs these boxes. So it's a good time to go and scout the locations, figure out where they are, and put them down. So we're making sure that they're all accessible and in spaces where people can access them. Now, important things you want to do before you submit your vote by mail ballot, as I show here, big things that we see, we're going to make sure that those ballots are signed, because a signature on the ballot, if you forget to sign it, it does not mean that your ballot won't be counted. It does mean that when it reaches our office, someone will be reaching out to you to call you and have you come in within, you have to come in within 8 days to come in and actually complete your ballot, make sure that it's there so it will still be counted. We don't just toss them out if they're not done. We do the legwork to try to get you in and make sure that everything is still done correctly. You do want to sign, like it says here, sign and date before you return the ballot. So make sure that all those things on the back are taken care of and you're all good to go. This one, how you return your ballot. Again, we went over what we had here, the vote by mail drop boxes. There'll be 400 locations for these drop boxes all across LA County. So you have a myriad of options of where you can go to drop off those ballots. Drop off those ballots if you like to in the drop boxes. You can still drop off your ballot through the mail. You want to place it in your mail, have your mail carrier pick it up, put it in a drop box or put it in a post box, you can do that as well. The USPS, it has a recommendation for you when you're turning in your ballot, is to please don't wait until the last day to turn it in. If you can get it in within a week ahead of time, that's great. It provides them a bigger buffer to make sure that those ballots are reaching our office prior to our certification deadline. We have a certain amount of time after election day that we can accept ballots, and I'll go over that a little bit too, because there's been some changes with that too. But they suggest about a week. If you can do it a week ahead, you're making sure you're providing the maximum amount of time to make sure that your ballot gets in safely and is able to be counted. So now with that one, California is actually running this new program. We're partnering with a company called Ballot Tracks. What Ballot Tracks does is it allows you to track your ballot just like you track a package. So all you'd have to do, go on, sign up for this free service. All it requests is this little information you see here, your first and last name, date of birth, zip code. And what will happen is you will have a link where you can see where your ballot is each step of the way to being processed and counted. So this is a new system that we've partnered with this year. So I've signed up for it and I like the way it works so far. I haven't actually committed a ballot because of course we haven't voted yet. But signing up for it is really simple, painless, and easy. And I encourage you all to go ahead and sign up with that. And I'll put the website in the chat once we get out of here so you can get a chance to go and look through that there. Also, this is recorded, so you'll see it there. There's that. Okay. So other things to note, we have a 10 5-day vote period. So you will see different locations that will have varying vote center hours or days. So the 10-day vote locations, you'll have about 75 vote locations that will be open for 10 days. And that's 10 days plus election day. So with your 5-day locations, it'll be 4 days plus election day. So there'll be 75 of the 10-day locations and approximately 800 of the 5-day locations. The idea behind this is to make sure that we're still providing people who would like to vote in person the opportunity to do so. The big things that have changed with these is the requirements for us to have a space of what we're looking at when we have these spaces. You won't find these in small rooms anymore or smaller locations. We're looking for larger spaces so we can actually stay in line with our social distancing. Well, we are using the ballot marking devices now. All of them will be spaced at least 6 feet apart from one another. There'll be rows that then also separate them. We are looking for spaces where we're able to distance our lines and keep people spread out as we're continuing to do this. We're also looking for spaces with good ventilation so that way we're able to make sure that there's a consistent airflow. It keeps us as safe as possible while we're going through the act of voting. Big things to note here also are the hours of vote center operation have changed a little. Traditionally, they are 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. So we've stepped that back a bit, so they're 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. So if you're like me, who doesn't really like to get up super early in the morning, having a vote center open at 10, it's right around, it's a good time for me. We also fit in my schedule if I'm a night person, so if something open at 7 p.m., I can go after I finish things and get in there as well. 8 p.m. didn't always work, 8 a.m. didn't always work well for me, so I'm really glad about that one. Things that changed here also is on election day. We have 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. So those are still the regular hours. Those were the main hours we had before, but we did shift the hours on the general 10-day and 5-day operation there. This page here, this is the ballot marking device. So this is the new device that we've come up with here in LA County. It's spent 10 years in the works, lots of work through varying groups to make sure that it was accessible for all groups and people of different levels of mobility. So the fun thing with the system, or most important thing I have to note, first two things there. This is still a 100% paper ballot. The system is not connected to the internet in any way, shape, or form. It has no internet connection. All it does is provides you a screen to mark your paper ballot. When you come into the polling place, you will receive your paper ballot there. That paper ballot you take over to one of these devices. You see down here in the bottom left panel, you slide that paper into the printer here. So it goes in, it'll walk you through everything you need to mark on the ballot. It then prints that ballot at the end for you to see, read and verify that everything is correct. Then it slides right back into the device and it's casted in this box back here. There's a box that's attached to it. So you don't actually hand that ballot to an election worker. You just let it slide right back into the device and that's it. You walk off, you go to everybody's favorite part, grab your sticker, keep on going. Fun things to note about this, big reason we like it, it allows us to switch the font size of things for people who are unable to see or seeing vision impaired. You have Braille that's on this controller here. It's a bit small, it's harder to see, but on the controller there's Braille. for our vision impaired individuals. That controller also extends out. So you can, if you are like this person here who's walking impaired, you can actually hand that out there so they can use it in the chair. It also gets as far as it has a sip and puff device where you can actually plug that in to the right side and actually use the device completely via your mouth. So it is, in its goal is to be as accessible as possible for individuals who come in and use this device. I've got to see this device in action in the last election, also during our mock election, and we've seen people all the way from down age 5 up to age 90 that have been able to use the machine. It's been pretty effective and easily accessible for people. Another system we have is called the ISB, or the Interactive Sample Ballot. This one is fun. What you do with this, it allows you to go online. You can mark a ballot online. When you mark that ballot, you will be given, you can either print out or keep on your phone this QR code that's in step number 2. When you come into the polling place, all you have to do is, like you see in step 3, is scan your phone or scan that polling pass, that ISB, and it'll pull up all of your choices onto the machine. It will print them out onto that paper ballot you received so you can verify that everything is correct, and then you pass it along back into the box. The reason that's useful is it is an amazing time saver, because now that we've moved to consolidated elections, sometimes you'll go into the vote and there'll be 15, 20, 30 races that you have to sit and go through to make sure that you're casting your ballot for each one. So this provides you the ability to do that in the comfort of your home. You can still come in, do it right when you walk in. Makes it easier. It makes it easier. It's a time-saving function. It is not required for anyone. It's just a completely optional part of the process. If you like to use it, you can. We'd love to hear your feedback on it. If not, it's fine. You can still go in and vote the way you normally do. Key things to note about this ISB: this poll pass, even if it's printed out, does not tie to you in any way. It's not saying that, oh, this is your ballot now. It doesn't have your name, your address, no identifying information is stored on that poll pass. All of the verification you do is still when you come into the polling place to receive your paper ballot. You actually check in, and that's what shows, hey, you've received a ballot. Doing this, so if you were to lose it, or it becomes lost or damaged or anything, it does not mean that your vote is lost or someone has stolen anything from you. It's all that's just there is a time-saving device. If someone picks it up, that means, oh, they voted the same as you. But that if they happen to use it, but they don't.
That's a good strategy.
Yeah.
Just lose a bunch of those.
Yeah, I didn't hear that, so I'm gonna continue. We're gonna keep on here. Voter information relating to COVID-19. So again, these are basic standards that we have going on around the county. You know, making sure that you're wearing a mask. Election work, make sure that election workers, you'll see there, will also be wearing masks, gloves, protective gear. We will be enforcing social distancing, you know, because we want to make sure that everyone is safe while they're doing this. Fun things about these, or not fun, but things to notice: the ballot marking devices, the way they work in polling places, they are sanitized after every voter. Now, the way that actually works is I got to work one of our mobile vote centers while we were doing this. Not only is the ballot marking device sanitized after every voter, the e-poll book where we check people in sanitized after every voter. We don't share pins. If we do use pins, anything that you touch is sanitized and wiped down after every individual goes through. It's also wiped down every hour on the hour, regardless of if we've had a voter or not. So things are taken, they take this voting or the sanitization procedures very seriously when we come to our vote centers. So we make sure that we do a bit more than we need to in order to make sure that we're safer than we do. So that's the idea, is to continue to do more to make sure that we have this little impact, negative impact as possible on our voters there. Again, we would encourage everyone, if you can or would like to, please vote by mail, because you will receive a ballot. It makes it easier, vote safer. You can do it, cast it from the privacy of your home and safety of your home at this point. So you can do that. You can pass those right through the mail using the Dropbox or your US Postal Service. all still very useful and viable options to cast your ballot during this election. Okay, timeline, important things to note. Sample ballot booklets go out. Oh, September is creeping up on us. It's almost here. So it goes out September 24th. So you'll have those sample ballot booklets start being mailed out to your house. Those booklets are just showing, it's a sample of your ballot, showing you'll see who the candidates are running, what the offices you're looking at voting for. You'll see all that stuff will be there in that booklet. So those will start dropping, hitting houses probably around the 25th, 26th, right after that goes out. October 5th is when the first mailing of ballots goes out. Now, we are mailing about 5.5 million ballots. So they're not going all out at one time. They're going to go out in waves, just because, you know, if we were to drop off 5 million ballots at the post office and say, hey, here, take this today, they wouldn't be too happy with that. So the idea is they will be staggered in the way they get out. So if you see your neighbors have received one on the 6th and you haven't received it, give it a couple days, a week or so. But if it's getting closer to that time, maybe like 2 weeks, a week or two has gone by, then please feel free to reach out, give us a call, and we'll figure out what's going on, make sure that we get that out to you, so you register in that time. So again, just give them some time. They're going to come in, they're going to trickle in a little bit, just because in order to reduce the load on the post office, they're staggered. That's the way they go out. Now, very important deadline to note, the October 19th deadline. That is the official voter registration deadline. The reason it's important right now is any voter registered before or on October 19th will receive a vote by mail ballot. So if you get your registration in or updated by that date, we will mail you a vote by mail ballot in time for you to vote in the election. If you register after that point, you then have the option to still come into the polling place and vote that way. Now, if you don't, say you don't register and you forgot, oh, it's October 29th, it's a vote period, it's time to vote, I haven't registered. We still have conditional voter registration where you're able to go into any polling place and register to vote then and there on that day. That has not changed. You're still able to do that. So if you miss that deadline, you may not receive the vote by mail ballot, but you will still have the opportunity to register to vote and be able to cast your ballot in this election. So again, October 27th is when the first 10-day sitters begin to open, and they'll be open 10 to 7, and then election day is November 3rd. So that day will be open 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. And then we move into the after parties. That's it. So again, really important thing to note now. Our social media, the way we run our social media has changed a bit now. So it used to be fun pictures of me and my team going out, taking pictures, being fun, out at outreach events. But now we're utilizing social media to be more of a information sharing space. So these will give you more directives about voting, ways to handle your voting procedures, cool places that you can vote, or new changes to what's going on in the current status of voting. So it's really important if you want up-to-date, really quick information. That's a great way to find that information is on our social media pages. And we're at LARRCC at just about everywhere you can think: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. We've got our email there, our website there. So if you need any information, anything you need help with, feel free to reach out here. Looking for anything, LAVote.net will generally get it to you. And that is that for me on this one. So of course, I'm still here if you guys have any questions or want me to go back through anything, free, let me know.
Yeah, I think that's super helpful. I learned a lot from that, and I think, yeah, it's a lot of information, but I'm excited to know that and be able to share that with people.
Yeah, it is a lot to digest at once. I know.
But there's so many
again,
options, which is great.
Yeah, that's the idea. So yeah, I know it's a lot to digest. So if you all have any, feel free. You got me here. Any questions?
I have a question in terms of if somebody wants, I know it won't matter for this specific election, but
if somebody wants to change their party, how do they do that? Like I tried to figure that out. I couldn't figure it out for the life of me.
Oh, okay, no problem. That is it's honestly a pretty quick process. It's very similar to, you can the easiest way to do it is to you can re-register, renew your registration. So you just fill it out, change it on that form. You can do that, and that'll change it for you. You can also change your party preference at the polls on the day of the election if you like to. You can come in. It's the same thing as doing, honestly, what they're doing though. You're doing a re-registration. We go through, we take it as a time to update your information. You just reaffirm everything is correct, and you change that, and then it'll change the system too.
And on a more political question, because I know people have talked about this a lot. So I know that some people are concerned about fraud, or what are some precautions that are being taken by LA County to prevent that?
Thank you, because you reminded me of something that's very important that I needed to say. When it comes to the post office and making sure that things are received and we're actually able to count all the ballots. Traditionally, when you return your ballot, we have 3 days to receive it. So if November 3rd is the election day, we have to receive it by November 6th. Outside of that, then they're no longer counted. Now, California, in preempting it, to make sure to understand, like, because of all the things that are going on with COVID, with things you've seen going on with our post office, they changed the laws around that. So instead of 3 days, we now have 17 days to receive a ballot. So you can actually receive, if you mail your ballot on November 3rd and it gets to me on November 19th, it will still be counted. Whereas before, if it came in on November 6th, there was not much I could do. So the idea was we're trying to provide as much space as possible for delays. We also are here in our office, we're in constant communication with the post office. We have weekly meetings with them. They have guaranteed us that they will have any election piece of mail will be in within 7 days of when it drops off. So the fun part about that is we've got November 3rd. If you drop them off on November 3rd, they guarantee and they're going to get it there by November 10th. Even if they don't get it there by November 10th, they have another 15 days to make sure that we get it on time. So we've provided a big buffer to make sure that people are able to get those ballots in.
Ryan, is this unique to California?
Yes, unfortunately.
Because to me, this seems so logical, but well, never mind. We'll stop there.
Go ahead. Oh no, I understand. I understand.
If you want people to participate in the process, then you make it as accessible as possible. To me, that's a no-brainer. But hey, that's why I live in California, huh?
Yeah. Unfortunately, I did have this conversation with a friend of mine yesterday. He's doing a voting initiative program and looking at all of these things that we can do, and it's a fun problem to have where all of the things you want to do, California already did. It's like we want to shift people to vote by mail, but we're sending them. It's like we need to get out and register everyone to vote today. So you can register any day up until election day in California. But what we're working on now is kind of shining this California light other places and go, why don't your states do this too? Helping that's kind of the way that we can help in that regard. But unfortunately, yes, this is pretty much, this is us. This is California. We have it that way right now. But I agree with you. It is a little illogical. It would be nice if we did it that way for other places.
And that's kind of why I also made that statement about how secure the boxes were.
Okay.
All of the other crap that's going on in the world, the first thing I think of is, people messing with the boxes.
Right. So the boxes, one of my coworkers actually told me, he's like, you're going to have to say this at some point. So when we go, I go out and I actually help with the installs for the boxes. So I'm one of those people too, who's like, well, how secure is this? So the boxes are fairly big. So I actually got in one of the boxes to see what it looked like from the inside of the box and see how far you can put your hand in here what can you drop in here? Like, what is it sealed? Like, close it and see what it looks like on the inside. So it's pretty, I can get out. I mean, it's pretty good box when you get it inside there and really like messing up. Yeah, I tend to be a little bit more than necessary when it comes to those. I just thought it was fun. And then until they decided to close it. It was a good time. So the things that I've seen implemented, even the quick changes, were weather stripping to make sure that the ballots aren't getting wet while they're in there. There's a mechanism to make sure that you can't stick anything that's larger than a ballot in the box. One of our city council people specifically asked about being able to fish things out of the box. The way that it's set up, it actually angles up and down, so you can't even get all the way into the box. So they did think about just about everything you could possibly to make sure that those ballots are secure in there, and that only people from the registrar's office are the ones who come in and actually manage and handle those.
Wow, that's
a
cool.
Hey, we try.
So is there any big efforts in terms of making sure that, you know, communities that in the past had issues with maybe their polling places not being accessible or closing without notice, or what's being done to ensure that, I know everybody's receiving a ballot, so that's amazing. But if people want to do it in person, I mean, how can we ensure that everybody's going to be able to go and their name's going to be there, you know, that they're not going to be harassed, or, you know, that they're going to be able to, that their voting place not going to be changed last minute and without any notification?
So there's a lot to tackle in there. So I'll start with the voting centers. One of the big changes with the voting solution, or not voting, the California Voters Choice Act, you no longer technically have polling places. We have vote centers, meaning you can vote anywhere in LA County. So should you happen to be at the grocery store and go, oh, I just forgot I needed to vote, and there's a vote center there in the parking lot, you can stop there and vote. Cool. We have it set up where if you're on your way to work, where we have mobile vote centers. Specifically, we're targeting around our essential workers, those people who are consistently back and forth at work. Hey, there's maybe a polling place outside of your job today. You can stop in there and vote. Doesn't matter where you go. Because of the e-poll book system we have, we're able to pull up your select set of races right then and there, and you can vote wherever you go. So that was another reason we did that, was for making sure all these places were accessible. Like, for instance, I personally love my old polling place. It's right here around the corner. It's at a elementary school. Been going there forever. I don't want them to change my polling place because I like it. I know all the people who are there. It's great. I didn't realize that my polling place is actually down a small set of 3 stairs. For an individual who's in a wheelchair, you might not be able to get in there. Or it makes it a lot harder when I looked at, okay, well, what is the path of travel? There is a ramp, but then that ramp goes from a short grade to a steep grade to then it's back flat, and then it goes across some grass. While when you just walk across, it doesn't seem like much, but that presents a barrier to people voting. So what we've done is move these spaces to spaces where we actually also, myself goes out and just looks at, hey, where are the paths of travel? How do we get here? And then we have another team that actually is ADA certified that goes in and they re-verify and say, oh no, you thought that was accessible, but it's not. So then we get through that and then we make sure, okay, now anyone can go. This is a space where it'd be easy and accessible for everyone to get to. Those names of those, so with some of those places, they will be accessible and we can use them. Without that, or outside of that, if those places do change, in our last election, what we did is we sent out a postcard, or it was really a booklet, before the election, early about, I think it was about maybe a month before the election, that had every polling place in the county was listed. They put those were in there, as well as our mobile vote spaces. So we had cool mobile vote spaces in the last election, like LA Zoo. If you happen to be at the zoo, there was a vote center there. So you could stop by, you're at the zoo today, you can vote here. One of my favorites, we did at Smorgasbord. So Smorgasbord down in downtown LA, the big food festival they have every Sunday. We put a vote center there. So if you come, you're there to eat, you can stop in here, you can vote while you're there. So those are things where we advertise, we actually advertise, these are vote centers, come in, stop here and vote. My favorite one was actually, we put a vote center in the Beverly Hilton, just because like it's there and why not? Like, they have a space, let's let people go in there. It was my excuse to go in there. I've never been in there, so I was like, why not? Go look. So that's the idea, is we try to advertise where these spaces are. And then we also do them at places where people frequent, like libraries, city halls, parks, places that people have already said that they felt comfortable voting. One space that we were using a lot of before, we probably won't use as much now, we did it a lot of schools. But as of now, with COVID precautions and size requirements, we are not using as many schools. We're shifting and readjusting to where we're going. But we picked, and these places were also selected not by the county, but after we did surveys to see where are people most comfortable voting. And we received we want to vote in libraries, schools, city halls. So that's what we went for. Once we ran or exhausted that list, it's okay, where are people? Where are you going? Like, where's a hub of transit? Where do people work here? Are you shopping here? So we stopped and went to those places. We actually had a few at a couple malls too. So those were fun. Little outdoor stations where you could come in and vote there as well. So those are, I think I got 2 of your questions, but I'm forgetting what another one is. What's the other one in there?
No, I think you answered. That's amazing. Like, I'm so proud of California for doing this. And yeah, I'm highly impressed, and I want all states to be doing
There you go.
this.
So that's a key point of this presentation, is kind of alleviate some of this fear or this like tension around this whole process. Like we are, at the end of the day, everyone who works here lives here too. We all want to be able to vote as easily as we can. So we try to do, you do the best you can for your neighbors, because at the end of the day, it falls back to us too. So we're all trying to make sure this is as easy as possible for everyone to get there.
It's like, if you don't vote this year, I mean, it's really because you didn't want to.
Yeah.
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 No, Jack, that's it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's we can have a different conversation about that one, and like my past work of understanding how that is and how we do make that work. But yeah.
Mm-hmm. So Ryan, I would love to transition. Elva gave me some actual voter registration
cool.
forms. I would love to talk a little bit about, what are some of the most effective ways that we can help increase voter registration in our own neighborhoods.
Okay, so that's a good segue. I like that. So most effective ways that you can increase voter registration in your neighborhoods, there is one as of now, and it is awareness. You've got to get people aware and ready to move. Okay, so the way you're doing that is I like my new favorite outreach tool I've seen is a lot of people are doing this with the census, and they call it the census caravan. Literally what they do, bunch of cars, they put signs on the cars, roll down the windows, get real loud, and drive through the streets and go, everyone make sure you fill out your census. Just yell, make a lot of noise. Why? Because people stop and are like, what is going on? Oh, census. Right, I gotta do that. Same thing with registration to vote, is getting people to see it and actually come out and engage with it. Now, in normal times, you'd want to do that and also try to drive home the personal part of voting, why it's so important, how it actually impacts your day-to-day life. So the way we found doing that, or I found doing that outside of some with work, some with other organizations, is through small groups like this, where you get together, you train people how to have people fill out a registration form. Then these 6 people here turn around and grab their 6 people and say, okay, well, we'll have a smaller group with them, and you build it like that. But the idea is really this takes a lot of interpersonal work right now because we don't have the ability to go out and do it on the doorstep, which as a campaign person, I'm every day like, I could figure out how to knock on people's doors. I really can. I'm sure I could do it. I'm sure I'm not supposed to, but every day I'm like, I need to do it. So one of these days I might figure it out. But I don't think it'll be anytime soon. But yes, a lot of this interpersonal, doing this over Zoom stuff, and just making sure that people are aware that they need to vote. Or one of the key things is making sure people update their registration. No, making sure that they know that they need to do that. You'd be amazed how many people forget, oh, I moved. Right, I have to redo my registration. Like, that's the time you want to do. You want to make sure that you're doing that. So just bringing it back to the forefront of people's minds is really the biggest way that you're going to keep generating more registrations like
What would you say, or what group would you say would be more or less likely to engage in voting? Like people who may not have language barriers, or?
Well, it's a fun thing for LA County. It's also making sure that people understand that we service in 13 different languages. So it's 13 different languages, and these are self-identified languages that people use as their primary language, as their first language. So we have the forms and material. All our materials are printed like that. So imagine whenever we print things, there's like stuff all over the place because we have them in all these different languages to make sure that they're accessible. Truth be told, you actually hit it right on the head. Like the biggest group of people who are not voting are kind of people who don't want to, or are people who are more so, like I had to learn this, that I thought for a long time not voting was I didn't know, I'm unaware. There are a lot of people who don't vote as their own form of like political statement, that they have a reason for it. So sometimes trying to overturn that is hard. It's not the typical, hey, your mayor does this, because you'll get the I know. Like I know exactly what they do, and I still chose not to do this. So those people would probably be your largest block of people who are not engaging. But the rest are just aware, more so awareness. We run into some people who don't know how, and are it seems like it's a simple thing. And some people, we've actually had this on a call earlier today. We have some people who feel a little embarrassed to ask that question. So by being there to be that conduit for information, you can help them feel comfortable about getting that information. There's a lot of times what happens is you don't know, so you don't ask, and then you don't ask because you don't know, because you don't ask, you won't know. So you have to be that space where someone can feel comfortable talking to you. So that's a beautiful thing about us doing this in small groups like that, is you can impact your sphere of influence. You never know which one of your friends may or may not know how to do this, but they're your friend. They're comfortable with you, and they hear you're voting, you're doing this. Okay, and you can pass that, and that's one way that you can continue to be good influence on your spirit influence without being me, who's like thoroughly annoying to all of my friends, and like, hey, where are you today? We're going voting. That's my thing. Don't do that. You get blocked easy. It's not a great idea. But yeah.
So I know you mentioned that you're not technically supposed to go door to door. Is that, as like independent people, are we allowed to do that, or do you have any thoughts on that?
It's less of an allowed thing, more of the way people are receiving that. When it comes to, if you're knocking on people's door, old wisdom when it came to canvassing, you don't go during dinner time because people are annoyed that you're disrupting my dinner time. Take that and apply COVID to it. Is you don't come to my door because I'm trying to distance from people and I don't want this interaction. So it's not that you can't do it. It's just you have to come up with a way that you can do it that's not as intrusive, because what you don't want is to go to a door and then turn someone off, because then you have a negative effect where they walk backwards away from what you're looking at. So there are creative ways that you can come up with doing it. I take this from an old sales technique or an old job I used to work in, is when you knock on someone's door, rather than standing there, you step out into the yard. You step out somewhere where people can see you. They see who it is, and they can, if they want to talk to you, they can talk to you out of a window. And you say, hey, well, this is what we're doing here. It also provides that distance where you can say, hey, I just knocked on your door. I wanted to make sure that you were engaged in this. Or you leave your flyer over there, but you knock on the door, because that interpersonal, that talking to people, promotes them taking action. So while you may put it on the door and then knock and stand over here and just go, hey, I'm not coming back, I just left this over here, take a look at that. If you want to do something like that, there are ways that you can make it work. The idea is, when it comes to the level of safety, not being at the door is always going to be safer than being at the door, just in general. So, you know, take it with your air of caution when you're doing it, if you're doing it. But it is not officially the position of the registrar that you should go to the door. So.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. I know Evel was talking about booths, and she's that annoying person at the booth. I guess like that's another option. Do you have any other thoughts on, I know you mentioned virtual, like maybe hosting kind of more of an informal, kind of like almost like a neighborhood Zoom of like, or like an open house even. I'm just kind of like brainstorming what are some ways that you think would be, aside from knocking on doors, that you think would be good for that interpersonal interaction that's not just social media, you know?
Yeah, so one of the things I've worked on lately with helping people register to vote, I would incorporate it through food drives is one thing that we've been doing. So I work a lot with my fraternity, and we do food drives, we do book drives, and in that time, while you have people out, we tend to, hey, have you registered to vote? Hey, have you updated your registration? Give you an opportunity to do that during those spaces. With lots of the people who are out during protests and marches and demonstrations there, at that time, hey, were you able to register to vote? One of the biggest ones we used in a march I did over here in Inglewood was we developed a QR code. So instead of having people actually stop, fill out a form, you can scan this QR code. It takes you right to your registration form, and you can do it on your own. But it gives you the option, it gives you the way to still provide that distance, but you're still able to get the message, get what you need across while you're doing it. So I would say, if you have a space where you're providing a service, the people are already coming because you're providing a service, not so much that we're creating a new event just to have people gather just to gather. But if they're already there and receiving a service, tap in, join on to some of those, just to make sure that they're providing this service. It's honestly a good way to go along following what people are doing with the census, because they're going out, they're already there. Let me educate. Let's make sure that you're registering to vote. You can add that flavor to it as well. So that would really be my best practice with it. Other than that, is be creative, because that's what we have to do at this point. We have to get creative of how we're getting out to people. It's really what's the best way you can see to do something safely, and then go through. But what I would strongly suggest, when you come up with a way of doing something safely, walk through it a couple of times, look at it, analyze it, see where there are holes in your safety protocol, and make sure that you're really covering your bases. It's important to make sure that we're keeping each other as safe as we possibly can. So make sure that even in any of these behaviors, you want to make sure that you're always trying to be as safe as possible.
Thank you. Yeah, and I think the caravan, I know you already mentioned the caravan. I think that's a really cool way too. And I'm thinking, okay, maybe there's like, someone who's kind of hanging behind the caravan, and as people walk out, then, they're available to kind of to drop stuff off at houses of people who like came out to react to it. Anyway, cool. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a great idea. It's a great idea. I did, that's, I got that idea, but I didn't get to come up with that idea. Someone else presented that idea to me. But what you just explained reminded me of another thing we did way back when I worked on another campaign. They did what was called a second line. So when you were with like New Orleans, they did we marched down the street with the band playing, and the candidate who was running for office kind of marched with the second line and waited till people came out, and then she would stop and go talk to them. And you hop back in,
Yeah.
and so it's little. It
Yeah.
was a lot of running for her. Like she didn't. I don't think she prepared for it. It was pretty hot out to be. These people stop on their porch, and she's back and forth across the street. It was a lot of fun, but you know, if you can do it, you can do it that way, especially with the caravan. If you want to have someone just here, take this. But I would have like a prepared little flyer or something. Hey, here you get it. Okay.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Did you see any increase in voting after the primaries, or since there was this new voting system?
Interestingly enough, there are numbers on that. I don't remember them right off the top of my head, but because I don't know how to describe myself in this regard. Because I'm like obsessive with looking at numbers, I spent a long period of time just like looking to see how many people had voted by mail versus voted in using the new system, because I think those things are interesting and fun. So I think this is one of the first times we'd actually seen a vote by mail outpace in-person voting in California, because it doesn't, like, traditionally that doesn't happen that way. Lots of people tend to vote in person. That's just the way that they're used to doing it. But as I was watching the numbers increase and tick up, you saw vote by mail got really close this time. It's interesting check mark that I noticed while I was refreshing the website day to day, because what else was I doing?
That is very
But
interesting. Yeah, I was like so grateful because I got to go on a Saturday, you know.
yeah,
Right here by my house. It was so easy in and out. I was just like, man, this is fantastic.
yeah. I'm a bad proponent of early voting. I voted the day before election day. I should have voted a lot earlier, but I actually was in my vote center and went, I need to do this now or I'm going to forget tomorrow, because there's a lot of work to do. And I'm glad I did, because then we had a huge rush at our vote center and I didn't get to sit down the whole day. So I definitely would have forgotten. So I'm glad I got to say, I can tell people, please vote early. It is really cool. It is super easy. There's generally no one around. You can just go in, get it done, and it's easy. And you get a sticker.
I was proud to put my sticker on too.
Right. Stickers are the best. They're the best. The one way we can truly incentivize people to vote is you give them stickers.
True. I do want to be respectful of your time, Ryan, but can I ask a few more minutes for some questions?
Go for it.
Okay, cool. And then everyone else, feel free to jump in with questions as well. But one thing I was thinking, as people who may not have a permanent address, either because they don't have housing right now, or because maybe they're moving, every couple weeks for some reason. I do see on here, as I was looking at it, there's an option for, like, if you don't have housing, like where you are, like cross streets.
Yes.
I think that's really cool. Also, I saw that there's on the back, it says if sharing your address could put you in life-threatening danger, you may be eligible to register to vote confidentially. So I think those are really cool. Do you have any more thoughts about someone who may be kind of moving from place to place and may feel like a vote by mail is not right for them?
Right. So with that, you're also allowed to put in, I believe it says on that form, you can put in a landmark as well. You can put in a space. So you can use any of that to register to vote. So with that being said, if you were to use that information and not be able to receive mail, you would then vote in person. But what the idea there is that you're able to still register to vote even without that physical address. So you can still come in and your vote can still be counted. That's really the most I got you on that one. But with the
That's
other
great,
program
though.
there,
I love it.
yeah, the other program that also works for judges as well, for other people. So people who are maybe experiencing domestic violence or have somewhat they're otherwise concerned about the privacy of their address. Like with people who have these large overarching concerns, they can apply for these waivers to be taken off of these roles in order to protect their privacy and make sure that they're not having any adverse effects from voting or that information becoming. Because the thing is, voter registration and voter rolls are public information. So what we do is try to make sure that for those who need that extra layer of protection, if you can show us one, hey, we've got to take it off, we can do that for you.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's cool. Cool. I think my last question is, obviously we carry our own political perspectives, and in getting people in La Mirada to vote who are already registered and getting new people registered, I think it's really tempting to kind of bring in like vote yes on this proposition while we're doing that. Do you have any thoughts about how to kind of hold that intention of
Keep it in check. Basically, what you're saying.
any thoughts on that?
Number one, I have to say you can't do that while you're registering to vote. Voting is a nonpartisan act, so you have to make sure that you're allowing everyone the ability to have access to vote there. I think for me, the easiest way to hold that urge in check, which sometimes it doesn't always succeed, but holding that urge in check is really thinking about voting as a communal act. It's not so much about my opinion as it is. It's not about the me. It's about the we in this situation. So you have an opinion, and honestly, just as much as I may not agree with yours, you may feel the same way about me, and that's fine. And with that being said, we're here to express this voice however it is you see fit. Whether or not that's the best thing or the way that I see is right or right from my perspective, it's kind of irrelevant at that point. So we're just here to make sure that people are able to have access to express themselves. Now, there's only one time with in the act of registration that you're able to mention or really like, hey, are you sure you meant to do that? The one time on that form is on the political party part of it. It has the first party listed there, if you look at it, is American Independent Party. American Independent is actually a political party and not registering yourself as an independent. So if you wanted to register as independent, it would be no party preference is what this box that's down there is for. American Independent is actually one of the largest political parties in California because lots of people think that they've registered themselves as independent and end up there. So that is one reason you want to make sure that oh, did we miss one? Oh, okay. Yes, so that's one reason why you want to make sure that you can ask at that point, hey, did you mean to register as independent or as declined to state? Because this is the box. It's the only time you can really jump in when, hey, I don't, and it's more so to protect the person, to help them make sure that they're exercising their voice the way that they want to. Now, you will run into, because I finally did it, and run into someone who goes, yes, I know exactly what that is. I don't know why you asked. And I'm like, oh, my bad. I was just not saying anything's wrong there. It's like, well, why wouldn't I just wanted to make sure that you were doing what you wanted to do, and that's it. But that's really the biggest time you'll jump in. But you are allowed to do things like if someone comes to you and says, hey, I want to register the way Obama did. Then you can go, okay, yes, it's a Democrat. You're allowed to do that. You can provide factual information. But when you're getting into the opinion about party platforms and things of that nature, you kind of want to stay away from that. And this is just anecdotally, it's best for you to maintain that nonpartisanship when you go through the procedure of registering people to vote, because as we've all seen the way the news works and everything is now, one of the processes of when you're registering someone to vote, if they make a mistake, you can't correct that. You're not supposed to correct it. You're supposed to have them fill out another form. But at a certain point, you would want to destroy or discard that form. Now, imagine if you're out and you're out in this view of wherever your views lie. If you're out doing the process you're supposed to do, and someone snaps a picture and they go, "Oh, they're destroying Republican forms over here. Oh, you're destroying Democratic forms here." It's the optics of it. So you want to always operate above the level of always above the level, as we call it. For the point is, ethics is not so much doing what's exactly right, is doing what is right and looks right. You've got to stay within the realm of the public has to be able to feel that trust that what you're doing is right. So you want to make sure that you're allowing the public the room to feel comfortable to engage with you. So that's really it's probably the biggest way you want to help keep that urge in check, is that I don't know who's watching me and how they're interpreting my actions. It's a good way to always go about it.
Yeah, thank you. That's good. Anyone else have questions before we go?
Just one last question. You may have touched on this, but what is the age? When does somebody need to be 18 or turn 18 to vote before
Election
the
day.
election? Oh, election day. If they turn
Election
18
day.
on the election day, they can vote.
Mm-hmm.
And what do? They register at the site, or?
So you're under California law, you are allowed to mark on that form, "I'm 18." Say you'll turn 18 on November 2nd and you are trying to register in October, you can write, "I will be 18," or "I'm 18" on that form, and that's fine, because you will be 18 at the time of that date. Now, if they turn 18 on November 4th, unfortunately, they're not registered to vote. What they would do is mark, "I'm 16 or 17 and would like to pre-register to vote." So their registration would kick into effect November 4th. So, but up until that point, they can still mark that. Also, remember, you can register people to vote 16 to 17. Pre-registration is a thing, so they can register early. And what will happen is when they turn 18, their registration will automatically kick in. So that way they don't have to go back and do anything extra, unless, of course, you've moved or whatnot. Other than that, they register, they sign up, they move on like that.
Awesome, thank you.
Cool. Any more questions? Cool. I'm looking at the form again. I see at the bottom you tear off the little bottom, and then so like and you said optics is a big thing. So it's like, say that I'm helping, I've brought this to someone, or I've met someone at some point who's filling this out. They finished. I don't even need to take this form back. Theoretically, they could mail this themselves.
They can. What you want to do is down at the very bottom there, that's the smallest flap. Keep going, right where those numbers are. There's a perforation there. So you fold that, and you can tear that off, and that's their receipt. So you can give that to the voter, and they'll be able to track where that form is by that number.
Oh, okay.
Give that to them. You just want to make sure that they sign it, put all the pertinent information, sign it, and then you can fold it. Or if they want to keep it, what you can have them do is they can tri-fold it. If you look on the back of that form, it already has like down at the bottom. Down there at the bottom, it looks just like a piece of mail. You can actually tape it right there if you fold it 3 times, and then drop it in the mail.
Yeah.
So it's already,
Okay.
yeah, that form is, say for instance, you do a registration drive and you realize, oh, I didn't have time to get them back. You can just drop them in the mail and they'll ship them right back to the office too.
Okay. But otherwise we could drop them off at the office.
Just bring them back to the Norwalk office and they'll process them for you there on the 3rd floor.
Sweet.
Probably want to call ahead now because the office is closed to the public because of COVID. So call ahead and then take care.
Great. Thank you so much. I've learned a
Of
ton
course.
from this, and I'm excited for other people to see this and to have more of a conversation. And like you said, awareness being kind of the biggest thing.
Well,
Thank you, Ryan. Appreciate it.
no problem. Thank you all for having me. You have my contact information. Feel free to share my email. If you guys have
Okay.
any questions, need help with anything, don't hesitate to reach out, and we'll be as helpful as I can as the process goes.